Hello, this is another one of my videos on Untitled Parker's short introduction to the Second World War. This is the first video of 3 on Chapter 12, Driving Back the Germans. I've slightly rearranged the order of the material to make it easier to record. So this one deals with the situation in the Soviet Union very briefly, and then the next two videos will be about North Africa and Sicily, and then Italy, mainland of Italy. After the German expansion had been halted, it took another 2 years of savage fighting to drive them back to Germany. Until the summer of 1943, Hitler could still reasonably hope to win. Victory at Kursk would have forced the Soviet leadership to compromise. Victory in the Atlantic would compel the British to surrender and keep the Americans on the other side of the Atlantic, or so he hoped. After that summer, however, all he could hope for was to delay defeat until the Allies fell apart. The land campaigns in Europe from 1943 to 1945 followed the same pattern. Hitler insisted on tenacious defense of all land held by the Germans, even at the risk of encirclement, but his generals wanted flexibility, including voluntary withdrawals, in order to preserve their forces and secure mobile battles in which their superior military skills would have their greatest effect. For their part, Soviet commanders tried to use the growing mobility of their best units to exploit German rigidities, bringing together locally overwhelming strengths to outweigh the German superior tactical prowess. After a series of defeats from 1940 to 1942, British army commanders were wary of German ability to counterattack and tried to avoid risky maneuvers, while American commanders worried about the inexperience of their officers, NGOs and men, and relied on a lavish supply of materiel to compensate until experience could be gained. These factors generally led to unimaginative battles of attrition during the final years of the war, with exceptions being relatively rare, such as Manstein's 1943 campaign in the Ukraine, the German advanced attacks at Avranches in Normandy in 1944 and in the Ardennes in 1944-45, and Montgomery's attack at Arnhem in September 44. Note, all of these were unsuccessful. After Kursk, the Red Army outmatched the Germans on the Eastern Front. By the end of 1943, it had over 5 million ground troops deployed against the Germans, or in reserve. By the end of 1943, by contrast, the Germans had only 2,850,000 men in the East. Greater numbers didn't bring victory by themselves. Until the end, the Germans remained superior to all others in staff work and junior leadership. German units reacted quickly and thought fast. American-made trucks transformed the Red Army's ability to maneuver, and with 4- or 6-wheel drive, they were serviceable in mud, the main obstacle to military movement in the East. After 1943, the better Soviet units, with their new equipment, moved quicker than most German divisions. The elite service of Soviet artillery also became formidable in set-piece attacks, and at critical points was used in concentrated mass. Thus, from the summer of 1943, the German command lost the initiative on the Eastern Front, and Soviet offensives succeeded each other such that there were only brief periods at which the whole front was stable. In the year after Kursk, from that was in July-August 43, up to June 44, there were many local German counterattacks and some substantial victories, but the overall pattern was of Soviet offensives in one sector of the front or another, forcing the Germans back, and mobile German units to rush from one crisis to another. The German field commanders would have preferred deliberate planned retreats so that they could assemble reserves and restore strategic flexibility, but Hitler repeatedly vetoed such proposals. Thus, it was a major challenge for the Germans to maintain a coherent defense during long and sometimes hurried and unplanned retreats. Red Army advanced as much as 600 miles in some sectors by 1944, clearing the Germans from Ukraine, entering Romania, crossing the pre-war Polish border, and finally breaking the protracted siege of Leningrad. In response, Hitler renamed two of the army groups as North and South Ukraine, names which could only be justified by reconquests which never came, and which assumed that the Allied invasion of Normandy would be repulsed, freeing reinforcements for the East. So thank you very much for listening, and particular thanks to my patrons for their kind support and encouragement, without whom I wouldn't be able to make these videos. You're very welcome to support my channel. Please do like, comment and share on the videos if you will. Subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. I'll give Patreon and PayPal links below if you want to provide practical support. Next week we'll talk about North Africa and Sicily in more detail than this very brief summary of what was going on in Russia. Have a good day.